Welcome to Puppet, and in the presentation we're going to be talking about Pacific Rim The Black. Now, I have a lot of things to say about the whole series, and especially for this particular Netflix adaptation. It is by far one of my most anticipated watches and really hopeful series to participate for up to date. And it is because this is an anime version of my childhood favorite, and it's really still up to this date my favorite sci-fi movie, Pacific Rim. Now, I gotta tell you that this movie really played a really huge role in my childhood. Really sparked my whole engineering ambitions, the whole giant robots thing, Evangelion, Neon Genesis Evangelion like concept. Come on, that's pretty cool. Now, when this got an adaptation, right, or when the trailer released, I got so hyped for it. I was so happy, and when it came out, I binged it, and it raises a lot of questions. Because I don't know what to say. I mean, there are some good things, there are some bad things as well. I was also pretty excited about it, but suffice to say, it's really a matter of how this movie, elevated or spiced up the story, how it kept it true, how they kept the concept true, following the original movie. All the elements were added and whatnot, and we'll say it right now. So from this version of the series, of the story, the setting is, I believe, after the events of the original movie, and yeah, as I've said before, there are a lot of elements, new characters, and of course events, I believe, from the film, right? They were from the film that were also seen along the lines or along the moments of the story, and that is pretty good. I was also surprised to see that the characters from the first Pacific Rim movie were also seen in this series. Come on, that's really sticking to its history, and yeah, it's really good to know that this is the direction that they went through with it. Now, for this story in particular, we follow the main sibling protagonists, Haley and Taylor, who set out to find their parents, who are Jaeger pilots who went missing for a number of years. So how did they try to find their parents? Well, the plot led them to find a actual, really legit working Jaeger right under their noses, and together they piloted it to begin finding clues as to where they would start their search for their parents. Now, you have this simple finding parents route type of story. Alright, that's good. And throughout the journey of the series, we get a glimpse of the whole aftermath and the whole background, the whole setting, the environment of the kaiju destruction, the place that they are in. If I remember, I think it's Australia that they're in right now. But yeah, suffice it to say, new enemies. There are new enemies that were included. The situations of the people in this, post-apocalyptic like setting. How did the communities fare? What are they doing? Is this gonna be like some Mad Max level of character, I don't know, ploy or something like that? And of course, we cannot forget how far the technology or the overall lore of the story in general grew to support this present storyline. Because remember, from the original film, Pacific Rim film, there are elements to which it has been made or has been declared already clear to that of the original film. But then came this Netflix adaptation where it does have roots to that film, yet there are a lot of elements, a lot of mysteries as well, that I'm pretty 100% sure that they've just been made, or they has been added to fit this series, to make it, really spice up and elevated. And that part of the series really got me intrigued, and I have to say it is, good in its own way, because I'm still happy that it still stays strong to this original concept, rather deriving from the concept or the elements of the first story, the Jaegers, kaiju, the whole situation that the world they're in. It really adds flair to the story's plot, but there are also scenes or moments wherein the settings or the future, the roots, completely changed, thus leading to an environment where it's post-apocalyptic like. and everything, everything was really at a bad position. People were losing hope. The countries, cities desolated. Kaiju's are starting to win, and everyone turned wild. But yeah, story's plot, as I've said before, from the original story, and it tries to stay true to it, but you also have moments or elements, rather huge elements, that are just completely boom. It's right there to fit this particular story. What else can I say about this? The jaeger fight scenes, yeah, they are sick. It's pretty good, I have to say. Hoping for more in the second season to really put an emphasis on that aspect. The key characters that raises questions about what would happen, what actually became of the whole project that the government is doing in this particular setting. There's a lot of changes that really happened, and I'm not so sure. I am sure rather that these are definitely elements that are okay. Towards the original story, it's similarly related, but the storyline adds. I can't say flair again. It adds a different type of vibe to it. The whole mystery vibe, for that matter. These mysteries. Then going back to the mysteries, we learned a lot of things right from the story to these newly added characters. But then when we have a answer, it just then cuts off as this cliffhanger type, which can hopefully be answered properly in the second season. Now, the potential romantic developments of the story, okay, that's good. I'm always a win for romantic plot developments and character developments towards, especially to the not the siblings though, the other character. Forgot her name. I'm sorry. But what really ties this whole movie together, the whole series together, I mean, is the continuity of questioning the world, how its continuous quest of adding new elements, trying to make sure it fits the puzzle perfectly, and it works. Somehow it works. You have a setting where it's survival of the fittest, mapping out these connections and trust between personal and interpersonal and social parties, communities for that matter, and there is a lot that we are still missing, which is kind of a bummer. But the good thing is that the first season gave us really good idea of what we're dealing with here, just like any other any other series, because I feel like everything could have ended all right. But the protagonist's goal, right, the two siblings, their goal was to initially find out where their parents are. But I feel like, story dictates that there's gonna always be a bump in the road. There's always gonna be a change, and we're also not so sure as to whether this is really the proper end, because there are also certain factors, hidden elements rather, found in these characters that just surprise us and makes the protagonist change their goal, which I also tend to notice a bit along the story, which is fine in its own way. I mean, of course you're gonna have to add this element of surprise as a running series. It's not a movie wherein there's gonna be a good end or a proper end. What the Netflix series does is that it derives from the original movie, changes its route a bit, good way of doing so, adds a lot of other components to the whole story, but yet still staying true. I'm still repeating this over again, but I just have to really put an emphasis on this because I don't know, some people don't like it, some people do. In my opinion, it is a really good series, a really good franchise, and Netflix originals, the way that it took this whole series is really well done, really well made. In terms of the animation, it's really cool. Voice actors, both the Japanese and the English that I've heard, pretty good job, amazing. And these characters, as teenagers, they're teenagers piloting giant robots. they survived the monsters and is involved with a lot of bad encounters with a lot of bad people. That is just, that's so anime. But what I've come across when watching this movie is that it really is good. It's good to how it adheres to the very aspect of anime and sticking with the original concept of the movie. I've said this before and I say it again. Wait, what is I about to say again? Good derivations of the movie is good enough to let us enjoy it for what it is. You know, we already watched the Pacific Rim movie way before this, of course, because this movie came out many years later after the original film. Then there's also the Pacific Rim Uprising, which I found people to dislike as much, I guess, as opposed. But yeah, sufficing to say, this new turn, this new take of, or new approach rather, to the storyline, it is much as interesting as the first film, the first movie, because there's still a whole lot more to be discussed, to be mysteries to be solved within the story. These two, the main protagonists as well, I feel like they have a lot of issues on their own that they need to be solved. The themes of family and what other themes can I find in such a... I'm just really hoping for a win in this plot development.